Alright, 2. Following requirements and required disclosure and introduction. Most exempt organizations include a private foundation must various terms that end reports with sometime during the following close of their account and period. Topics. The chapter discusses annual information returns on related business income returns, employment tax returns, political organization income tax return, reporting requirements of political organization, donate information return or information provided to donors, reporting costs received, public inspection exemption, application for the annual returns, political organization report returns, forms, required disclosures, miscellaneous rules, useful items you want to issue. 15. Circular employer tax guide, employer supplemental tax guide, employer tax guide, fringing benefits tax on related business income exempt organization 598. Form and instruction 941 employer quarterly federal tax and return. 990 return at organization exempt for income tax. 990 EZ short-term return for the organization exempt for the income tax. Schedule A, Form 90 or 990 EZ public charity status of public support. Schedule B, Form 990 990 EZ or 990 PS schedule for the contributors. Schedule C, Form 990, 990E, political campaign, lobbying activities. Schedule D, Form 990, supplemental financial statements. Schedule E, Form 990, 990EZ, schools. Schedule F, Form 990, statements of the activities outside of the United States. Schedule G, Form 990, 990E, supplemental information regarding fundraising and gaming activities. Schedule H, Form 990, hospitals. Schedule I, Form 990, grants or other associations of the organization, governments, individuals in the United States. Section J, compensation information. Form 990, Section K, and the Form 990, supplemental information, tax exempt bonds. Schedule L, Form 990, 990 EZ, transaction interested person. Schedule M, Form 990, non-cash contributions. Schedule N, Form 990, 990 EZ, liquidation, termination, dissolution, significant disposition of the assets. Schedule O, Form 990, 990 EZ, supplemental return for information form of 990. Schedule R, Form 990, related organization, unrelated partnership. 990 PF, return of private foundation, or Section 4947A, exemption, non-exemption of charitable trust treated with the private foundation. 990BL, information initial exercise excise tax return of the black lung benefit trust and related persons. 990T, tax exempt organization business for the income tax return. 990W, exempt tax unrelated business taxes income tax exempt organization. 1120 POL, U.S. income tax return for the central political organization. 47020, return of capital excise taxes under the Chapter 4142 of the Internal Revenue Code. 5768, election revocation, election eligible. Section 501c3, organization to make expenditure to influence legislation. 6069, return of the excess tax on the contribution black lung benefit trust fund trust under Section 4953 in competition with the Section 192 deduction. 7004, application of the automatic extension time filed with a certain business income tax information other returns. 8274, certification of church as qualified church for the control of the organization collecting exemption for the employer social security with Medicare taxes. 8282, donate information in return. 8300, report of the cash repayments over 10,000 received in trade of the business. 8453X, political organization declaration electronic filing and notice of Section 527 status. 8822B, the change of address and responsible party business. 8868, application automatic extension of the time of the filing of the exemption of the organization return. 8870, information return of the transfer associated with a certain personnel benefits contract. 8871, political organization notice, Section 527 status. 8872, political organization report contribution expenditures. 8886T, disclosure of taxes and entities regarding prohibited tax related transaction. 8899, national income of the donated of the intellectual property. 8940, request of miscellaneous determination. 8976, notice of intent with operating under Section 501C. See Chapter 6, annual information getting of these publications and forms. Annual information returns. Every organization exempt from the federal income tax under Section 501A must file an annual exempt organization return. An organizational return except for the church and church organization, local unit of the church, convention, association, church. 2. Integrated auxiliary church affiliated with the organization exclusively engaged with the managed fund for the maintaining retirement programs. A school below the college level affiliated with the church or operated with the religious order. Church affiliated with the mission society with the half of their activity conducted in or direct the person in foreign countries. Executive religious activity, any religious order, state institution, the income of which for the excluded with the gross income under the statute 111. 11.5. The corporation description of 501c for the one, but organized under the Act of the Congress, instrumental with the United States, exempt with the federal income tax. 9. A stock bonus pension with the profiting sharing with the trust and with the qualifies under Section 401, required to file Form 5500 for the annual return report with the employee benefit plan. Religious apostolic organization described in Section 501d with required for the Form 1065 use of return partnership income. A government unit or affiliated with the government until the meets of the requirements of Section Revision Procurement 9548 1 1995 2 for the February CB with the 418 Irish Gov Pubs TEG and ARP 1995 48 PDF. Private foundation described in Section 501c3 exempt under Section 501a required for the Form 990 PF for the return of the private foundation. A political organization of the state or local committee with the political party with the political committee with the state of the local candidates of the caucus of the association state of the local officials required with the report under the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971. An exempt organization other than private foundation normally with the annual gross receipt of $50,000 or less required with the Form 990N with electronic notice. The foreign organization located in U.S. possession normally annual gross receipt with the source of the United States or $50,000 or less. Supporting organization annual information return for tax years ended after August 17, 2006. All Section 509A 3. Supporting organizations are required to file a Form 990 or 990EZ with the IRS regarding the organization gross receipts unless it qualifies as one of the following: integrated with auxiliary church, the auxiliary religious activity, the religious order, or 3. An organization gross receipts for normally not more than $5,000 supporting with the Section 509A with the religious order. If the organization described in item 3 above then must submit the Form 990E with the postcard unless voluntary files the Form 990-990EZ on its annual information return Part 1 Schedule A of the Form 990-990EZ supporting organization list of the 590A 3 organization which provide with the support indicate whether Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 supporting organization certify the organization is in control indirectly or directly with a disqualified person other than the foundation manager other than one more public supportive organizations. Annual electronic filing requirements of small tax exempt. Small tax exempt organization annual gross receipt normally $50,000 or less must be submitted the Form 990 electronic notice of a postcard. Form tax exempt organization not required for the filing Form 990 with the IRS each of the year that choose not to file with the 990EZ. The Form 990N required the following information. The organization league with the name, the mailing address, the name and under which they operate, the internet website address, if any, the tax identification pay number, the name and address of the principal officers, the organizational annual tax period, the verification of organizational annual with the gross received with a normal $50,000 or less, notification of organization determination, notice of the organization has terminated. Form 990N is due the 15th day of the 15th month of the fifth month of after the close of the tax year. For the tax year is beginning with December 31st, 2006. Any organization that falls in the meet for the annual reporting requirements of 3 consecutive years will automatically lose its tax exempt status. For the regain exempt status, to regain exempt status, and the organization will have to reapply recognition for the tax exempt organization. Exemption of the following requirements does not apply to church with the integrated auxiliary convention with associations for the church organization, including a group of the return. Private foundation required to file Form 990 PF and the Section 509A3 supporting organization required to file Form 990-990EZ. Form 990 and 990EZ. Exempt organization other than private foundations must file the annual information of the returns within the Form 990-990EZ unless expected with the filing allowed submitted with the Form 990N described earlier. General political organization gross receipts is $25,000 or $100,000 are qualified in state, local political organizations or more tax year with required with the file form 990-990E unless specifically exempt the file annual return the following political organization aren't required to form 990-990EZ. A state local committee with the political party with the political comment committee with the state of the local candidate, the caucus for the association, state local official, the political organization, the required with the report of the political committee under the Federal Election Campaign Act, the 501c organization, the expenditure for the nation, links against attempting to influence the selection, nomination, election with the appointment of any individual, federal and state and local public official office. Form 990EZ is the short version of the Form 990. 990EZ is designed for use by a small exemption organization not exempt to the non-exempt charitable trust. An organization can be either Form 990 or 990E, satisfies both of the following gross receipts during the year that are less than $200,000. Total assets at line 25, column B with the Form 990 at the end of the year are less than $500,000. If the organization does not satisfy the condition, you can file for the 990EZ instead of filing 990. Group return. A group return for the Form 990 may file with a central parent like organization with a two or more local organization, or in which for the private foundation the return is additional central organization separate with an annual return. Must file with the return and can include the group return. See the instructions of the Form 990 condition under which the procedure is to be used. Any year the organization properly included the subordinate of the organization on the group of the return, it should not file. It shouldn't file its own Form 990. Schedule A, Form 990 and 990EZ, organization with other private foundations that are described in Section 501C, otherwise required with the Form 990 and 990EZ must complete Schedule A of the form. Schedule B, the Form 990, 990EZ, and 990PF, organization with the file of 990, 990EZ with the schedule to provide required information regarding the contributors. Alright, moving on. Schedule O, Form 990. Organization for the form of the 990 must give the schedule to provide the required additional information, additional speed as specifications as needed. Other schedules may require the file with the Form 990, 990 EZ. The instruction Form 990 with the instruction Form 990 EZ for information. Alright, I think Schedule O with the supplemental information Form 990. Report significant new and change of the program, significant change of the organization document. The organization for the new significant program, significant significant change of how to conduct the progress service. Program for the significant change of the organizational documents is on its form of the 990 rather than letter of the executive order determination. The executive order determination no longer letters to conform the tax exempt staff of the organization. The new report new services significant change of the organization document. See miscellaneous rules organizational change exempt status later. Form 990 PF. All private foundations exempt under the Section 501c3 must form the 990 PF of the organization discussed in Chapter 3. Electronic filing. You may be required to form a 990 Form 990 EZ 990 PF with the related form schedule attachment electronically. If the organization required to return the electronically does not organize the consider of having filled the return, see regulation section 30160.334 for more information. The IRS may waive the requirement to electronically pay for the undue charge for the information filing the waiver. See notice for 2010-13 2010 for IRB 327 available at irs.gov.ir 2010-04-IRS B AR 14 HTML. Form 990. An organization required with the file Form 990 electronically if fails at least 250 returns. It files at least 250 returns during the calendar year and they have the total assets of $10 million and it has the total assets of $10 million or more at the end of the tax year. Form 990 PF. Organization required with the Form 990 PF electronically filed with at least 200. It files at least 250 returns during the calendar year. Form 8976 organization required to notify the IRS electronically and operate for the Section 501c organization. Due date: Form 990, 990 EZ, 990 PF must be filled out on the 15th day of the 5th month, 15th day of the 5th month by the end of the organization accounting period. Thus, calendar year tax preparer of the Form 990, 990 EZ, 990 PF are due the May 15th of the following year. If any due date falls on Saturday, Sunday, legal holiday, substitute the next business day. Extension of the time of the file. Use the Form 8868 with the request for the annual automatic extension for the time of the file with the 990, 990 EZ, and 990 PF. While filing the Form 8868 with an automatic extension, neither a signature nor explanation is required.
I dusted it with more stuff.
I don't want any more.
It good.
Shut my door. Application exemption pending organization claim with the exempt of the Section 501A must establish the exemption staff of the due date filing with the information returned must comply with the file Form 990, 990E, 990M, 990P after the conservative self-private foundation. Unless the organization exempt with the Form 990 series, the filing requirements of the organization application of the pending with the IRS must so indicate that the forms of 990, 990EZ, 990PF, which apply by the checking the application pending block at the top of the page. 1. Return for information for the following requirements. See the instruction for the Form 990, 990EZ, 990PF. Stating report requirements. Copy of the Form 990, 990EZ, 990PF may be used assessed by the state. Reporting requirements. See the instruction of those forms. Form 8087. Organization filed with the Form 990, 990EZ, 990PF, the paid premiums, the received transfer, the certain insurance, life insurance, and annuities, the endowment contracts, personal benefit the contracts must file with the 8870 for the more information. See the Form 8870 for the instruction in that form. Form 8822B moved during the if you moved during the year, fill the Form 8822B with the change of the address of the responsible party business. Also, if you were responsible for the party change of the year, you must also fill out the Form 8822B with the responsible party's tax exemption organization principal officer defined in the Form 990 instruction with the general glossary section. Alright, automatic revocation. If the organization fails to perform the 990, 990EZ, or 990PF to fail to support the form, therefore it fails to submit a Form 990N required with the consecutive, as required for 3 consecutive years of automatically lost with the tax exempt status operation law. The list of organizations with the tax exempt that has been automatically can be revoked available to IRSV. The auto revocation list may be reviewed and searched on the exempt organization select check. The auto revocation includes each of the organization names, employer identification number, last name, known address. It also includes the effective date, automatic revocation date that it was posted to the list. The IRS updated the list monthly and included the additional organization to lose the tax exempt status. Tax effect of the losses of tax exempt status. If organization tax exempt status is automatically revoked, you may be required to file one of the following federal income tax returns. Any pay applicable to income tax at the Form 1120 with the U.S. corporation income tax return due the 15th day of the third month of the after and then of your organization tax year. Form 1041 U.S. income tax return of the estates and trusts due the 15th day of the fourth month of after end of the year of your organization tax year. In addition, with the Section 501c3, the organization law for the tax exempt status can receive the tax deductible contribution will be identified by the Irish Business Master Plan extract is age eligible to receive tax deductible contributions may be included. The exempt organization select check with the published 78 database. An organization exemption will automatically revoked but must apply with the tax exemption in order to regain the tax exemption if then wasn't originally required to apply. In some situations, an organization may be able to retain exemption retroactive to the date of the revocation. Similarly to the central organization with a group exemption number and is automatically revoked, the subsidiary may need to apply with the exemption independent organization. For more information about the automatic revocation, go to the IRS Gov, select with the charities, nonprofits, then select the revoked or reinstated to learn more. Alright, penalties. Penalties failure to file. Generally, exempt the organization fails with the requirement of the most penalty with $20 a day each for the day, but the failure continues. Same penalty will apply with the organization doesn't give it the information required with the return. It doesn't give it the corrective information. The penalty is indexed with the inflation returns required with the file date after December 31st, 2014. Maximum penalty. The maximum penalty for any with one return is smaller than $10,000, 5% of the original gross receipts over the year. The organization with the gross receipts of $1 million for organization with the head the gross receipts over the $1 million for the year. The penalty is $100 a day up to $50,000. Manager. The organization subject to the penalty IRS may be specifically dated by the return with the correct information must be supplied with the organization. Failure to comply with the demand will result in penalty imposed with the manager, organization, or upon any other person responsible to filing correction of the planned penalty with the day. $10 a day each for the return filed with each for the period of the given with the following maximum penalty imposed with all the person will respect to any one of the return is $5,000. Exemption for a reasonable cause. No penalty will impose with a reasonable cause for the failure to pay. File timely can be shown. Unrelated business income tax returns. Even though the organization recognizes the tax is exempt, it must be liable to tax unrelated business incomes. Unrelated business incomes for trade business regulation regularly carried on the instantly substantially required related charitable education or other purpose the base for the organizational exemption. If the organization has $1,000 or more unrelated business incomes, you must file the Form 990T in addition with required annual information return. Estimated tax. Quarterly estimated tax payments are due to the organization exempt. Quarterly estimated tax payments are due to the organization exempt expects to owe $500 more in taxes, including the unrelated business income. The use of the form number 99W for the organization estimated tax payments. Travel or tour programs. Travel tour activities of trade business are unrelated to trade business activities between business activities substantially related to the purpose of the tax exempt was granted with the organization. When the travel occurred for the conduct of the organization substantially related to the organization tax exempt purpose determined by looking at the relevant facts, circumstances included but not limited to how travel is developed and promoted the operated. The example, the ABC University and Alumni Association tax exempt their educational organization under 501c3. As part of the activity, the ABC operated with the travel tour program. The program is open for all current members of the ABC and their guests. The ABC work with the travel agents to schedule the appropriate 10 hours annually. Various destinations around the world. The members of the ABC pay $1,000 to X, Y, and Z for the travel agency. Particularly, the tour X, Y, and Z pays ABC with person fee for each for the participation. Although the federal literature advertising for the tours of the encouraging ABC member to continue with their lifelong learning by joining the tours faculty member of the ABC related university, frequently joining with the tour of the alumni association. Now, the tours include the scheduled instruction of the curriculum related to the destination being visited. The travel tours made available to ABC members do not contribute important to accomplish the ABC's educational purposes. Whether the ABC program is desired to generate the revenues, the ABC regularly offering the membership to travel service. Therefore, ABC tour program is unrelated trade business. For additional information on related business income, see publication 598 and the instruction form 990T. Alright, employment tax returns. Every employer, including the organization exempt for the federal income tax, who pays the wage for the employees is responsible for withholding, depositing, and paying the reporting federal income tax, Social Security, Medicare, or FICA, federal income tax, taxes, federal unemployment tax, FU2A, unless the employer is specifically inspected the law of the those requirements and taxes clearly don't apply. For more than information of the copy of the publication, the 15 summary of the responsibility of the employer publication, 15A publication, 15B of the norm form 941. Small business healthcare tax credit. If the small tax exempt organization provides the healthcare coverage for the work that you provide, you may qualify for the small business healthcare tax credit. Go to the IRS.gov and they select Affordable Care Act tax provision for the more details. See the small business healthcare tax credit. Alright, new guidance provides transition relief for the employee health insurance expenses. Notice the 2014-06 of the provides guidance for the Section 45R with certain small employees that can opt for the qualified health plan for the small business health option programs or shop exchange because of the employer's principal business is addressed the county of Washington, Wisconsin, in which QHP and through shop the exchange won't be available in 2014. Since notice 2014-6 similar relief provided with a certain county for the Iowa with the 2015 certain county for the Wisconsin 2016. See notice 2015-8 and notice 2016-75. Trust fund recovery penalty. Any of the person required to collect the thoroughly account and pay over any of the taxes willfully satisfy any of those requirements willfully try for any way to defeat any of the items then personally subject to the penalty. The penalty is equal to tax evaded not collected not accounted for or paid over the term person, any officer, employer, the corporation member, the employee of the partnership exemption. The penalty is imposed with the unpaid volunteer directed for the member of the board membership exempt the organization. Unpaid volunteer served solely with the honorary capacity to participate in the day-to-day financial operation. Organization does not have the actual knowledge of the failure with it, and the penalty is imposed. The exemption does not apply with the result in no one being able to liable the penalty. Certification programs, professional and employer organizations, CPEO is the Tax Increase for the Prevention of Tax Increase Prevention Act of 2004 is an act of December 19, 2004 requires the IRS to establish a voluntary certification program for the professional employer organizations or PEOs. Professional employer organizations handle the various payroll or administrations and tax reporting responsibility for the business clients and or typical pay with the fees paid with the payroll costs. For further information, IRS.gov for tax pros, basic tools, certified professional employer organization. Alright, FISCA and FUTA expectation payments of the service provided with the minister of the church of the of the ministry of the member of the religious order performing duties required by the other generally not subject to the FICA of the future taxes. Alright, future tax exemption paid the service of the perform of the employer with the religious, charitable, education, and other organizations described in Section 5013, so generally subject to the VICA tax for the payable for the $100 or more of the year errant subject to the few taxes. Fees could tax exemption churches and qualified churches with control of the organization can elect exemption for the employer with the fees cut taxes filing forms 827 8274. The selected exemption for the form 8274 must be filed before the first day of the time which the quarterly employment tax return would otherwise due from the electing organization. The organization can make an election only if they oppose the religious session to the payment of fee cut taxes. The election applied for the payment of the services of the current future employment employees other than the service performed unrelated to trade or business. Revocation by election. Election can be revoked by the IRS or organization failed to form the W-2 the wage tax statement for the 2 year for the failure to furnish certain information upon the request of the IRS. Or such revocation will apply with retroactively to begin with a 2 year period. Definitions. For the purpose of election, the term of the church, for the meaning of the church, the convention of the association of the church, and elementary, secondary school, with the control of the operative, with personally supported by the church, or by convention, association, the term qualified church controlled organization means the church controlled section of 501c3 tax exempt organization other than organization than both. Offers goods, services, and facilities for sales other than the incidental base for the general public other than the nominal charge with a substantial less than cost for providing such goods to the services and facilities normally receive more than 25% of the support of the government sources of the receipt of the mission saves limited merchandise performance of the services furnishing the facilities activities that are unrelated to the trade or business. Effectiveness, effect on employees. If church or qualified church control the organization has made an election payment, the services performed by the church of the organization other than the unrelated trade or business won't be subject to fee cut taxes out with the employee unless otherwise exempt from the subject of the self-employment. The tax income of the tax applies to income of $100.28 or more the tax year for the church organization. No deduction trade business expenses are allowed again for the self-employment income. Schedule SE for the form 1040. The self-employment tax should be attached to the employment income tax return. Political organization income tax return. Your general political organization treated with the organization exempt to tax certain political organization, however, they must file with the annual income tax form L1120 with the POL or public U.S. income tax return for the certain public organization for any year that have public organization tax income except for the $100 specific deduction allowed under Section 527. A political organization that has $25,000 or $100,000 for qualified state, local political organizations or more gross receipts for the tax year must file from the Form 990-990-EZ for the Schedule B form unless they specify the 990-990-ZE earlier. Political organization, part of the committee, association, fund, or other organization, whether or not incorporated, organized, or operated with primarily for the purpose of directly and indirectly accepting contribution, making expenditures of both exempt functions. Exempt function means the influence, attempting to influence the section, nomination, election, appointment of any individual, federal, state, local, public office of political organization, election, presidential, vice presidential electors, whether or not such individual electors are selected, nominated, elected, appointed, also included with certain officers, expense of the holder in public office, the office of political organization. Certain political organizations are required to notify the IRS that they are Section 527 of the organization. The organization must use the Form 8871. Some of the Section 527 organization must use the Form 8872. Periodic reports to the IRS, disclosure of the contribution, exposure for the disclosure of these forms, the reporting requirements of public organization layer. Public organization taxable income. The public organizational taxable income is excess of the gross income of the tax year, exclude the exempt function income minus the deduction directly connected with the earning of the gross income. To figure tax income to allow $100 specific deduction, do not allow the net operating and loss deduction dividends, receive the deduction, other special deduction corporations. Each exempt organization for the new not a political organization. Organization has under exemption of 501c spent for them any amount of the exempt function must file the Form 1120 POL for any year of which the political tax income has a political tax income. The organization must include the gross income and the lesser of the total amount of the exemption fund with expenditure of the organization of the new investment funds. Separate fund of Section 501c organization can set up with a separate segregated fund that will be treated independent political organization earning with the expenditure made with a separate fund that would be attributed with the Section 501c. Section 501c3 organization are precluded from any suffered loss of the exemption from engaging in political campaign on behalf of any opposition of the candidate for public office. Due date: the 11/20 POL is due the 15th day of the fourth month after the end of the tax year. The calendar year taxpayer for the LG 11/20 POL was due April 15th the following year. If any due date falls on Saturday, Sunday, or a legal holiday, the organization can file the return on the next business day. The Form 11/20 POL is not required of the exempt organization making the expenditure for the political purposes, and gross income does not exceed them directly in connection with the deduction more than $100 of tax exemption. Exemption of time to file. Use the Form 7000 form. Requested automatic extension of the time of the file of Form 11/20 POL. The extension will be granted with the complete the Form 7004. Protected may be the proper estimate of the tax if applicable. The Form 11/20 POL, the due date and pay any of the tax due. Failure to file. Political organization that fails to file Form 11/20 POL subject to the penalties equal to 5% of the tax due each for the month, partial month of the return of the laid over the maximum of 25% of the tax due unless the organization shows the failure would do. A reasonable cause for more information about the filing with the 11/20 POL refer to the instruction accompanying with the form. Failure to pay on time. An organization does not pay the tax on the due. They generally may have to pay the penalty up to 1/2 or 1% of the unpaid tax for each of the month part of the month in taxes and pay up to the maximum of 25% unpaid taxes. Penalty won't be imposed if the organization can show the failure to pay within the time was due to responsible cause. Reporting requirements of political organization. Certain political organizations required to notify the IRS organized to be treated in Section 527 political organization. Organizations are required to periodically report the contribution received and expenditures may be made by the organization. Notify the IRS in Section 527 the treatment. The organization must file the Form 8871 to report. Contribution expenditures certain taxes and political organization must file Form 8872. Alright, Form 8871. Political organization must electronically Form 8871 to notify the IRS that it has been treated with the Section 527 organization. However, the organization is not required to file the Form 8871 if the reasonable expected annual growth they received is always be less than 25,000. A political committee is required to report under the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971, 552 U.S. Standard Code, Section 30101, attempt sequence, is the state local candidate committee, the state local committee with the political party, other political organization required the Form 8871. An organization must provide the Form 8871, its name, address, including any of the business addresses, indifferent with its electronic mailing address, its purpose, name, and address for the officer compensated with employee, contact person, custodian, record of the membership of the board of directors, name and address, the relationship of the related entity within the meeting of the Section 168H4, and whether intended with the claim of the exemption of them the filing of 8872, the Form 990, formerly 990EZ. Alright, your employer identification number. If your organization needs an employer identification number, you can apply for the online one with checking the employer identification number. The IRS business got small, previously employed, and if you are previously applied for the employee identification number and haven't received it, or if you are unsure whether you have an employee identification number, please call our toll free with the customer account with the service numbers 1-877-829-5500 for assistance. Due dates. The initial form of the 8871 may be filed with the 24th day, but the organization will be established. Therefore, the material change of the amendment before 8871 must be filed within 30 days of the material change. When the organization terminates its existence, it must file with the final form 8871 with the 30 day of the termination. If the due date falls within Saturday or some legal holiday, the organization can file with the next business day. How to file? The organization must file with the Form 8871, especially electronically via the IRS the internet website, IRS.gov, POLORGRS, or political orgs. Keyword. Form 8453X, political organization declaration of electronic filing of the notice of Section 527 status. After the electronic filing is submitted with the initial form 8871, the political organization must print and sign and email the Form 8453X to the IRS. Upon the receipt of the Form 8453X, the IRS will send the organization the user name and pass-through that may be used to file an amendment with the final Form 8871, electronically Form 8872. Penalties. Failure to file. An organization that required for the Form 8871 must fail to do so on a timely basis won't be treated as taxes under Section 527 of the organization any period of the day of the Form 8871. Also, taxes and income of the organization for the period that include with the exempt function income, including contribution received, membership dues, political fundraising received, the amount of any of the deduction directly connected with the production of the income. That income failure to file an amendment form 8871 will cause the organization not to be treated with the tax exemption in form section 527. If the organization is treated as not being the tax exempt section 527, the tax income of this organization will be determined in consideration exempt function income and deduction during the period during the day of the material change ending with the day of the amended with form 8871. The tax computed with the multiple with the organization tax income with the highest corporate tax rate. Fraudulent returns. Individual corporation with willfully delivered the disclosure to the IRS and any of the lists of return account statements or other document known fraudulently follows the any of the material matter will be fined in no more than $10,000, $50,000 case for the corporation in prison for no more than 1 year or both. Waiver of penalty. The IRS may waive the additional tax assessed for the organizational failure to form 8871, the failure due to the responsible cause of willful neglect. Additional information. For more information for the Form 8871, see the form and instructions for discussion of the public inspection requirements for the Form Public Inspection Exemption application, annual reports, and annual terms and public organization return forms later. Form 8872, every tax exempt section 527, political organization exempt that contributes to making an expenditure for the exam function during the calendar year must file 8872. A political organization isn't required to file Form 8871. Discussed earlier, political organization is subject to tax of the income because it didn't file the amended Form 8871. Qualified state and local public organization organization discussed below all their tax exempt section 527 organization exempt accept contribution make expenditure for the exempt function required with the form 8872. Qualified state and local political organizations, state local political organizations of qualified state local political organizations if one, all the political activities relate solely with the state and local public office of the office of the state and local public organization. If the subject of state local requires a report and does not report, the state agency information contribution expenditure for the similar in the information organization would otherwise be required to report the IRS. The state agency of the organization make the reports and publicly available. For no federal candidate office holders contributes material to participate in the direction of the organization's listed contributions for the organization directs the disbursement for the organization. Information required in Form 8872. The organization paid for the individual 500 more of the calendar year. The organization required to disclose the individual names, address, occupation, employer, amount of the expense. The date of expense was paid. The purpose for the expense of the Form 8872. If the organization received the contribution of the $200 or more contributing with the calendar year, the organization must discuss the donor's name, address, occupation, employer, the day of the contribution was made. The additional information is required in Section C Form 8872. Due dates. The due date following the Form 8872, the varying depending on whether the form is due for the reporting the period of the curve during the calendar year within which the regular schedule of the actual election is held, and any other calendar year of the non-election year. If the due date falls on a Saturday, Sunday, legal holiday, organization can file with the new business day. Election year filing. The election year's form, the 8872, must be filed with the quarterly or on a monthly basis pre-election report with the post-election report. Also required with the field an election year. The election year of any of the year will regularly schedule the general election federal office of the is held even number of the year. Non-election year filing. Non-election years forms to be filled with a semi-annual monthly basis. The complete listing of those filing period of the Form 8872 instruction non-election year of the odd number year. How to file the Form 8872 can be filed electronically by mail. However, the organization have to expect to have contribution expenditures of $50,000 or more of the year must be filed electronically. To file by mail, send Form 8872 to the Department of Treasury, Internal Revenue Service, Ogden, Utah 842010027. Or electronic filing. Electronic via the IRS internet website, IRS political orgs, neither the user ID and password electronically file the Form 8872. Organization have the completed electrical filing Form 8871, submitted with the completed and signed Form 88453. X will receive the username and the password in mail. Organization have completed the electronic filing of Form 8871. Have been received the user ID password can request one of the writing and filing addresses. Internal Revenue's attention request for the 8872 password mail stop 6273 Ogden, Utah 84201. Lost username and password. If the forgotten misplaced the username and password issued to the organization after the field with the initial Form 8871, send a letter requesting the new username and password to address the electronic filing. You can also take a request at 801-620-3249 and it may take 3-6 weeks for the username and password to arrive as they will be mailed to the organization. Penalty. A penalty will be imposed if the organization required to file Form 8872 if it fails to form by the due date. The files form but fails but to report on information required, reports incorrect information. Penalty of 35% of the total amount of the contribution expenditure will failure rates. Which are failure rates. Fraudulent return. An individual corporation willfully delivers a disclosure the list of the return account statements of the document not known to be fraudulent, false. Any of the material matter will be fined no more than $10,000, $50,000, and gave the corporation imprisoned for not more than 1 year or both. Waiver penalties. The IRS will not waive the additional tax assessed for the organization failure to form 8872. The failure was due to the reasonable cause of the willful neglect. Donor information return. Disposition donated the property if the organization received the charitable deduction property within 3 years and sells exchange. Otherwise disposed of the property, the organization must perform the 8282 donor information return. However, the organization isn't required to file Form 8282 if the property is valued at $500 or less. The property is consumed with the distributed with a charitable purpose. The 8282 must be filed with the IRS within 125 days after the disposition. An additional copy of the Form 8282 must be given to the donor. If the organization fails to file with the required information return, with the penalties may apply. Charitable deduction property. This any of the property, other money deduction publicly for traded security for which the donor organization signed with the appraisal summary of the Form 8283 non-cash charitable contributions. Public trade and security. There are securities which make quotations readily available to establish security market as a date of the contribution. Appraisal summary. If the value of the donation proceeds $55,000, the donor must get with the qualified appraisal contribution of the property. See exemptions below. Exemptions. Written appraisal is needed if the property is non-publicly traded as stock of $10,000 or less. Vehicle, including car, boat, or airplane. If your deduction of for your vehicle is limited to gross proceeds for the sale of intellectual property, certain securities considered to have market quotations readily available. See regulations 170A, 13C, 7, 9, or 11B. Inventory, other property donated by the corporation that are qualified contributions for the care of ill needy infants or with their meaning in section 170E3A, or any donation of the stock or trade inventory property that held primarily in sale of the customer in ordinary cause of the trade of the business. The donor organization is qualified and appraisable for the purpose of valuing the donated property. For more information for the getting the publication 561, determine the value of donated property. Form 8283 non-cash donations over $5,000. The donor must ask for Form 8283 with the tax return support with the charitable deduction. The donor must sign Part 4, Section B of 8283 unless publicly traded security for the donated person who signed the donor must be an official authorized to sign the donor tax information returns. The person is specifically authorized to sign with the official with the signature donor does not represent the occurrence of the value of the contributed property. Its signed acknowledgement represents the receipt of the property described in Form 8283 with the date specified on the form. The signature indicates the knowledge of the information reporting requirements for the disposition previously discussed in copy Form 8283 must be given to the donor. Information provided to donors or donee. Information provided to donors. And we're going to cut the tape there.